Hi, this is John Paul Wilson. I'm going to pause recording while students populate my live lesson. It is May May 18th. It is a Monday. It is World History. So here we go. Pausing. It is Monday. You guys are kind of coming up to the last little bit of my history class. The last 2 weeks are just tests and finals. And so you guys are going to kind of wrap everything up this week. I finished your test today. I will have your study guide up for it tomorrow. I'll have your study guide up on Google Classroom so you guys can get through that. I put up the 2 assignments, I believe, for this week. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? So I put up the rest. Oh, God. Oh, my food coma hit me from lunch. We got the rest of the year planned out. You guys have a video tonight and questions that go with it, crash course, and then you guys have a little review packets like you did last week on Tuesday. Then you guys got study guide Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, you got your Unit 8 Cold War test. Monday is a holiday. You guys have Monday off. And then it's pretty much final exam study guide. Final exam study guide. Tuesday through Friday next week. I will probably have it up halfway through the day Tuesday because I'll probably make your final on Tuesday and the study guide on Tuesday. So you're going to get it about halfway through the day Tuesday. You'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the weekend to study for your final. The following week is the last week of school. You guys will have your final on Monday and Tuesday. I will keep that open for both days, and you guys will kind of knock that out. And then our last 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to be doing an online yearbook signing. So you guys will still be able to come to my live lesson, hang out, sign yearbooks. No. What are you laughing at, Alex?
Nothing.
Y'all want to watch Gumball?
I just realized, how are we supposed to get our yearbooks? Are they getting delivered to us, or?
I have no idea, Lucas. That is something that if you haven't received any emails about, you should probably reach out to your counselor or the high school.
All right.
I honestly have no idea on how that works. Nicholas, did you shout out?
Yeah, so for the final exam, I'm going on a trip from like that of the Friday, and then I'm coming back Monday. So is there a certain time that it's going to be like to be able to do it, or can I just do it when I get home?
No, you can just do it when you get home. So I will open it. It will be set to open. I'll probably have it actually open maybe even Friday afternoonish, and then you'll have Monday and Tuesday to finish it. And I'm hoping to have all the grades done by Wednesday.
All right, sick. Thank you.
Yep. So I've given you guys kind of multiple days because, yeah, I figure that there might be people going on a holiday or whatnot that weekend. And so I want to make sure and give you guys 2 days to kind of get that done. It will be a lot bigger. It's going to be, like 75 questions. So you guys do need to be prepared. You guys got to know it's going to be 10% of your grade, just like it was in the first semester. It is going to go over this whole semester. So it is cumulative. There's a lot going on with that.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, Alex.
Last year? No,
Yes.
last year. I don't know. I don't know if I had you last year, but sometime you put some questions that were on the study guide.
Like I put the questions actually on the study guide?
No, you put questions that weren't on the study guide.
I try and make the study guides directly from the tests. And while questions might not seem like they're from it, terminology from the question might be on the study guide. So I don't do the questions from the test on the study guide. I try and do bigger picture. So with that said, Alex, instead of saying like, hey, what is America's policy for communism in this time period, I might say, what is containment? Right? So you have to know what containment is, and then you would know that that is one of the policies for containing communism, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
I am also hopeful that I will also have a final exam Kahoot for you guys for next Wednesday. So finger crossed I can get that made up.
Here.
Any questions on that? All right, let's go into the lecture. You guys left off. Let's see. Did we did this one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't know
we
if
did.
I was in a live lesson last week.
On Wednesday. Nicholas, are you saying yes or no?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. And then we just got started, and I think we talked about this one because I remember looking at this one, right? Did we get into Cuba and Fidel Castro?
No.
Okay, so we're right here. We'll do probably about 5 slides real quick, just jump through them. Fidel Castro was the leader, will become the leader of Cuba. If you guys don't know, Cuba is right here, is this island and other little islands that are just off the coast of Miami. I think it's literally only like 40 or 70 miles off the coast of Miami. So
That's
Cuba,
swimmable.
what?
So that's swimmable.
I don't know if swimmable, but definitely via boat, like really simply, like anybody's personal boat could do that. So it's
How
pretty,
about canoe?
I mean, you could
Wait.
possibly do it with a canoe as long as you don't lose your like kind of your direction.
Wait, Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Would Cuba still be under United States government or no?
No, it has not been under the United States government for some time. There was a very small time period back in imperialism at the turn about 1890, 1900, in which there was some American involvement in Cuba, but not since then.
Okay.
Yeah. Cuba had been free for quite some time at this point. Good question, though. And Fidel Castro will rise up and bring popular opinion. Mauricio, do me a favor. Mute yourself when you're not asking questions or talking because I get a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Thank you. And he is supported by the people because he is against the United States. And he's against the U.S.-supported dictator that had taken over Cuba, Fulgencio Batista. He overthrows him in January of 1959. He was young, he was rebellious, he was outgoing, he was a very admirable person. A lot of the Cuban people really claim to connect with him. And he brings about social reforms when he takes over. He wants to improve the economy, and his reforms do improve the economy. But from that point on, he suspends elections. He also will jail and execute opponents and will take over the the media side of his country. This really concerns. Whoa. Who's in that?
Cyborg?
Weston. Chill, fool.
What?
It was giving me like some gnarly feedback.
Like what?
Dude, come on.
Straight up. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It had like a robot version of my voice.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I think that's
Either Weston or Alex. It was one of you two punks.
I have no clue what you're talking about, bro. I literally just joined.
Must have been Alex for sure. Alex trying to have fun with it.
no.
Anyways.
It was actually Travis Scott voice.
Yeah. Who's Travis Scott?
Damn. Come on, Mr. Wilson. You need to boss up.
Wait, Mr. Wilson, being serious, you don't know who Travis Scott is?
Should
I
I?
have so much shit on my.
Everyone should know who Travis Scott. Actually, I don't know about the elderly people though, but everyone should know about Travis Scott.
I'm feeling like the elderly people these days. He will also take over a bunch of U.S.-owned companies And this really infuriates Eisenhower. Eisenhower basically has to deal with all these major companies that produce sugar in Cuba and having to like argue with them and trying to say, hey, you know what, we're trying to fix this. What he does is he puts a trade blockade on Cuba called an embargo. And this basically makes Fidel Castro very unhappy, and he turns to Russia for support for goods and food and services. We basically come up with this idea, and it's called the Bay of Pigs invasion. And the Bay of Pigs is a CIA-backed anti-Castro invasion in which we actually ship over something, I think it was like 400 ex-Cubans to overthrow Castro, and we are going to bomb him from the air during this time period so that they can soften up kind of the Cuban military and kill Castro. But the last second, JFK, who had signed off on this, the president at the time, basically takes back his order and does not allow planes to fly over. And when they do their one pass over, they're told, hey, don't bomb. We're not going to use the planes. And one of the planes are shot down. It turns into being this big kind of negative effect. This is Castro on the left-hand side. You can see his face. And it really does give Americans the idea that America is trying to influence other countries. With that said, that starts to promote Nikita Khrushchev. Nikita Khrushchev is the new leader of the USSR. He does not think the United States can handle Cuba, so he tells Cuba that he wants to protect them. So he starts to build missile silos in Cuba. JFK sees this and he's really scared because those ICBMs can fly all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, and possibly even higher. It could hit a lot of those southern states, killing millions of people if they did go to war. And so what he did was he actually sent out the U.S. Navy to blockade Cuba from getting any goods from the USSR. This is called the Cuban Missile Crisis. So first you have the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, and then you have the Cuban Missile Crisis. Khrushchev sends ships to go to Cuba, and basically, if you guys have seen, I think it's called X-Men First Class, in which they are taking the ships over and they're trying to get to Cuba. That's basically their take on the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's completely fake the way they do it, but they're talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis in that moment. John F. Kennedy tells the ships that they cannot allow Russian ships to enter. The Russian ships get very close, but then turn around, and Nikita kind of withdraws his troops from starting potentially a war with the United States over Cuba. Cuba basically asks them, saying, hey, we need your goods, so we need you to promise to take out the weapons. The USSR takes the weapons out of Cuba, basically declaring defeat in this kind of standoff between us and the USSR. And Cuba, though they're unhappy with it, they do have dependent support lines sent to the Soviet Union so that they can be economically and agriculturally supported by the USSR. This is John F. Kennedy on the right and Nikita Khrushchev on the left. These are the satellite pictures of the location in which they believe that the Russians are building these missile silos at. And so you get these like long tents in the top here, and that's where they would cover their missiles. You would get the different types of trucks that would come up and people working. And so we saw these through our flyovers, and we're taking pictures of Cuba when we find these, and basically it really sets an alarm to us. Let's see. All right, 4 more slides. We also get involved in Nicaragua. Somoza is a family dictatorship that was put in place by the United States in 1933. And in 1979, communist rebels called the Sandistas will topple Somoza's dictatorship. And so you know, we overthrow a leader that we put in place, and we basically try and buy out the new leader, Daniel Ortega. Sadly, he gives support to Marxist rebels in El Salvador, starting to show that we are picking the wrong people. We will give money. We will stop giving money to Ortega and start giving them to Contras, an anti-communist group in Nicaragua, to try and overthrow Daniel Ortega. A civil war will ensue that lasts 10 years, in which he finally says he will hold free elections. Daniel Ortega will lose the election to Violeta Chamorro, and she will be a reform candidate, stopping a lot of the communist things that we didn't even back her. So it shows that we're making very poor decisions in different countries around the Southern Hemisphere and Latin America, comparative to what we had done previously. There's also conflicts in Iran. This is a continuous issue that we have had. You know, we have had a lot of conflict in the Middle East, and this is no exception. Basically, what happened was early on in the 50s and the 60s, Iran and the Middle East were growing almost very westernized like. So when we think about the Middle East, we think of very religiously strong connections. That is only because there was a big backlash against modern Western materialism and these Western cultures. It creates a clash between Islamic values and Western ideals of maternalism and kind of media and society. And underlying all that is the oil industry. And so what you guys get is you guys get leaders like the Shah Mohammad Razi Pahlavi, who will embrace Western governments and wealthy oil companies. And because they do this, you will get then nationalists like Mohammed Mossadegh, and their you fight against Western people. And so what happens is you get nationalists overthrowing Pahlavi, and will take over a British oil company that was founded in the 1930s, and they will take that over in 1953. The United States, fearing that this new nationalized Iran would side with the United States, will try and reinstate Pahlavi's power. And this creates a huge struggle between a United States-backed dictator and a rebel group that had taken control of the country in opposition to Western powers. You get the, Pahlavi, who is right here in the bottom. You get the Ayatollah, who's up here in the top. And you get a march showing people kind of moving forward to do things and to push for changes in their society, holding up banners of the leaders that they want to take over. By the end of the 1950s, Iran had westernized. They had skyscrapers, they had foreign banking and modern factories. But because of the U.S. support, you get a lot of Islamic leaders who will start to rise up and tell the people that the religion is telling them what they are doing is wrong. They start to promote the Ayatollahs, led by Ruhollah, in which they start to round up different Westerners and people who believe in the Western ideals, and they will execute them. They will exile them and basically allow Iran to fall into Islamic State, being run by the Ayatollahs. Basically, they become a state in which they are ran by religious leaders, and therefore their national law becomes that of the religious book or the Quran. We're going to go ahead and stop there. Any questions about what's coming up? No? No. All right. So we're going to go ahead and stop recording then.